Hello, everybody. You're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. That's me. Thank you for joining me today and giving me just a little slice of your day. You know that I appreciate you. There's plenty of things to talk about on the show today. It's unfortunate. We only have an hour to cover all of this stuff, and there is a lot of stuff. Like there's a ton. Boy, basically, Michael Wilbon wrote a piece for ESPN's website, The Undefeated, about how black people don't like analytics. That was then backed up this morning by Gasbag and, show fodder, Stephen A. Smith, who is a man who is, he's a regular here. He's a guy that's been on the show before.
You don't want to make an enemy out of me. And I'm looking right into the camera, and I'm going to say it again. You do not want to make an enemy out of me. I'm not having it.
I'm going to make an enemy out of you, Stephen A.
I'm not having it.
You're going to have it. Because, look, this is where we're at with how all of this works. Analytics are seen as this magical thing that if you can understand them, you are smarter than everybody else, and everybody who can't understand analytics, you're just stupid. And so there's like a pushback against that because nobody wants there to be this elite level of someone understanding sports. Okay, it takes its own toll on things as well because analytics are numbers. They're cold, they're hard, they're unyielding numbers, and that doesn't leave a whole lot of room for feelings and emotions. And we talk about fire, we talk about grit, and none of those things are quantifiable. So obviously numbers have no place in the game, right? Not so much. So Michael Wilbon wrote about it. Stephen A. Smith continued carrying on that piece. I obviously have a lot to say about that as I am a black person who is a huge fan of analytics and doesn't appreciate being spoken for, not even by Michael Wilbon. Also today, we're going to cover Baylor, the sexual assaults on Baylor that were alleged to have happened, that also the school never reported and discouraged victims from reporting. That's a whole giant situation that we could unpack, and we're going to later on. It's intense. We'll talk about the Raptors and the Cavaliers. We'll also talk about the Thunder and the Warriors tonight. There's a possible elimination game going on here, and you're not going to want to miss it. But first, where can we reach you? Where can you reach us? I recommend Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You can get to all of those sites from hotnewstalkradio.com. You can find all of our social media there. You can stream our classic shows on YouTube. Our website, Hot News Talk Radio, streams 24/7, 365. You can also check us out on Facebook. We stream live on Facebook as well. This show is called Clutch with Keon Rose. We do this every single day from 6 to 7. Wouldn't you join us? And also to check us out in the TuneIn Radio app. It's free in your favorite app store for those with Google and Apple devices. Simply search Hot News Talk Radio, give us a favorite, and press play, and you'll have Hot News Talk Radio everywhere you go. Want to talk some more about African Americans in analytics, and apparently, according to Michael Wilbon, who speaks for all of us, we don't like that. That's not something that you hear us talk about, which is insane, right? Because if you've ever listened to this show, I'm all about the analytics. That is my favorite thing. I don't run numbers out here because I'm not trying to bore people to death listening to radio. But that, make no mistake, I enjoy analytics, and in my personal conversations with my brother and with my friends, analytics are what we use. It's not going to be your typical, as Wilbon said in his article, barbershop conversation, and it shouldn't be. The barbershop conversation is a different conversation. When I'm with my barber and we're talking about sports, and I probably should see him, it's been a minute, but when we talk about sports, nobody's got their phone out or their computer out trying to pull up stats. So yeah, you're vague, you're general. You talk about what's missing from a certain team or what a certain team needs to do when you do so without referencing numbers. But all of those ideas are built on a house of numbers, okay? And this is hard for me to do personally. I'm not trying to go at Michael Wilbon or anybody else necessarily. I just disagree. Michael Wilbon is the reason why I'm into sports in the first place. I remember being in elementary school, my teacher had the Washington Post. We lived in Maryland, and she had the Washington Post newspaper, and she would put it up at the chalkboard every day, and we had to pick something in there and write about it. And I always picked the sports section, and I always picked Wilbon's columns or Kornheiser. And Tony Kornheiser, Michael Wilbon are two of my favorite people in sports. So it really, really stinks to see this topic that has a lot of nuance to it and a lot of angles and sides to it not be addressed with the nuance and angles that it has and that it needs to be addressed with in order for us to get anywhere in this conversation, which is to not generalize an entire culture, an entire race, and say that those people don't like math and numbers and they're right to not like it, right? It's because he's not just saying this to disparage black people, like black people don't like analytics, shame on us. It's a compliment that how black people assess the game in terms of reading into the heart, reading into the desire, using your eyes to measure what is happening in front of you. That's the truest and most pure way to enjoy basketball. And Michael Wilbon knows more about basketball than I do. I love basketball, and I think I know a lot. Michael Wilbon has forgotten more basketball than I think I will ever know. But with that said, he's wrong here. Numbers aren't about not assessing those things, and being proud that you don't like numbers and that you don't use numbers in conversation shouldn't be where you land on this. There's a joy when it comes to, yeah, we don't use analytics. We just do the eye test. Okay, well, there are black economists, there are black physicists, there are black bankers, there are black politicians. What do you think they're using in these professions? Stats. They're using numbers. They're using analytics. They're using data. Okay? Politician goes to the polls. He needs to know how he's doing in a certain state. What issues should he avoid because he sounds terrible on them and he's not polling well? You need to know these things. That's analytics. If you're a scientist, okay, Neil deGrasse Tyson is probably one of the more popular physicists out there. You're using a bunch of analytics, some of which I can't name and none of which I recognize. Okay, I know all the numbers. Once you start adding those symbols around that equation, I don't understand what that is. Those are analytics. Okay, you're in the finance world, and you've got plenty of black folk doing that job too. What are you using? Analytics. This pride that we have in not being able to count stuff is really weird. Okay, and it's weird in a way that people being proud of not reading stuff is also weird. That the old Chris Rock joke about if you want to hide your money from a bunch of black dudes, hide it in a book. They're not going to pick it up. You know, he's going to raid your library for anything. But that's a stereotype that we build onto ourselves. We act like it's a good thing to not read stuff. Like black community acts like it's a good idea. Like it's we're proud of the fact that we don't count stuff, even though you count stuff all the time. Analytics are just numbers. You use them every day. The speed limit is an analytic. Your paycheck is an analytic. When you're cooking, unless you're just going off a feel, and some people can do that, that's an analytic. And by the way, you're still using a precise measurement just because you didn't bother to count what it was. There's more of something and less of something else. There's ratios that you're generally aware of. Just because you didn't bother to count it doesn't mean that the analytic doesn't exist. Okay? But people hate these analytics like the plus minus stat that everybody's been running out for Draymond Green, or win shares, or whip in baseball, walks and hits divided by innings pitched. You've got all of these numbers and these stats, and they can be confusing. I mean, in baseball, you just have a whole line of sabermetrics. Like, I have fallen into that rabbit hole. You don't come out from sabermetrics the same person. That's a tough place to be. But in a lot of sports, the analytics that we're using, they're not wildly complicated. Draymond Green's plus minus is just how much was the team outscored while you were in the lineup. while you were on the floor. That's not deep stuff. That's a basic stat. And it's a ridiculous stat too, because it's a team stat being applied to one person. But it helps you to identify a trend. No single statistic is worth anything by itself. I mentioned the speed limit earlier. If you're driving 70 miles per hour, are you speeding? Well, it depends on what the speed limit is. The stat of your speed only determines if you're speeding if the stat is relative to what the speed limit is. Are you in a school zone? Well, then you've got to reduce your speed even more. Okay? I owe somebody $500, for example. Am I in debt? Well, that stat doesn't say anything unless you make it relative to how much money I'm making. Because if I'm making $6,000, then no, I'm not in debt. I can pay that person off. Okay, I'm not bankrupt. If I owe someone $500 and for some reason I'm only making $200, I'm in trouble. No stat means anything unless it's relative to another stat. And why is this important? Because statistics simply help to tell the story. That's it. They don't do anything magical or special, okay? And we'd love to think so. We'd love to think that the movie Moneyball is based on some magic and you know, just, oh, he used data and magically put together a team that worked. He didn't. It doesn't take away from the hard work of the players. It doesn't take away from the fact that you've got to match these guys up in a way that most benefits what they do best anyhow, maximizing their potential, which you need to do already. Why would you leave that up to an eye test? Okay? When you fly on a plane, do you want your pilot to use analytics or not? Because he's got a bunch of instruments up there that even if he is in the cloudiest of weather and he can't see a damn thing, even then, he can fly the plane because he's using analytics. The instruments tell the story of what's happening to the point where an experienced pilot, it's almost impossible to crash a plane. Like 7 things have to go wrong at once to crash a plane. If you follow the instruments, read what they're saying. You don't do the eye test. I don't want a pilot that's out there that's going to try and eyeball it. All right? I don't want any of that. If the police are investigating me for something, I want that person to go through all the data that they have. I don't want them to look at me and just guess. All right? That doesn't make any sense. Why do we want this? Why are we so glad that as a people, we don't like counting stuff? Which, by the way, I don't think is true. America. What are we, 15th in the world in mathematics? We're not great. This whole country doesn't like counting stuff. And we're so bad at it. We're really bad. We get our butts kicked by everyone. This whole country hates counting stuff. And that'll be one of the downfalls of this nation is that we don't like to compute things. We're afraid of numbers in a way that other nations simply aren't. And if you have a bunch of people who are afraid of numbers, then what you end up doing is just kind of winging it. And that doesn't make any sense. I don't get on this show and just wing it. I prepare. There's numbers to be seen. There's articles that are written. You've got to go through the information. That's all analytics are, more information. But what we want in sports is to feel something. We want to feel the visceral emotions of sports. And I get it, because I do too. I watched Kevin Durant. I was watching some of his highlights again today. He went to go block Draymond Green at the rim. Draymond tried to pass around him. He jumped up, and Draymond passed around him. When Kevin Durant landed, he turned around instantly and double jumped back up into the air and then ended up actually blocking Sean Livingston at the rim. Of that moment, okay? Analytics just help to tell that story. It doesn't take away from the fact that the Thunder are playing incredible defense, that they are playing with incredible heart and passion and will that Russell Westbrook would literally run through a brick wall for this team. He looks like it. If you're in his way, may God have mercy on your soul. You're toast. You're toast. Why is it that when we use numbers to help tell that story, something's wrong? Why do we have to just go by heart and passion? And does he wilt under pressure? The numbers can help tell you. Your eyes fool you all the time. Okay? I mean, what are we learning in psychology? That we've got a number of biases, that the way that we see the world, you're so wrong. You attach a narrative to everything, that even stuff that doesn't need one. Okay? And the numbers can help you tell your story. It's not analytics versus story. The numbers help to tell the story in a way. But we see numbers as cold and calculating. We don't like the way that they make us feel. But you know what? You shouldn't live life with just your feelings. You shouldn't live life with just your feelings anyway. That's the incorrect way to live life. If you've got an anger problem, with that anger problem, just acting out on your anger or some awareness. Numbers help make you more aware. Living life on impulse and feelings makes you a crazy person. That's not sanity, that's insanity. And anyway, numbers don't eliminate your emotions. In the article, Michael Wilbon talked to Draymond Green, and Draymond Green said, yeah, he doesn't think about analytics when he's out on the floor. If he's going to take a long two, he's not going to go, yeah, analytically, it makes sense for me to take a step back and shoot a three. Steph Curry is the best in the league shooting corner threes. When he's out on the floor, he doesn't think, oh, analytically, I'm best from the corner. I need to get over there and shoot. But the guys on the team, the coaches, the assistants, the video coordinators, those guys going through the data help you to draw up plays that are the most effective for you. It's just putting people in a position to win, which if you run a business, you would want to do anyway. And if numbers could help you do that, why on earth wouldn't you want them? You're listening to AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. And it's bothersome to me. It's because it's dangerous. It's dangerous. You're actually telling people, and in the case of Wilbon and Stephen A. Smith,
I'm not having it.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You've got these guys out here saying that black people don't like math and black people don't like numbers. And not only should we be cool with that, but that should be great. We should be happy that we don't like numbers. And America doesn't like numbers. And no, none of us should be great about that. That shouldn't be good. And then, of course, there's a friend told him that, Dwight Howard's going to get paid the max contract this summer because because the analytics are going to say that he's worth the money. And what is analytics doing to the sport? Analytics aren't doing anything to the sport. They're just helping us to identify trends and tell our stories a little bit better. Like the analytics that tell us that Dwight Howard wants to post up. And Dwight Howard is terrible at posting up. Look up the stats. Dwight Howard wants to post up, and Dwight Howard is terrible at posting up. He's middle of the pack to near bottom of the league in that stat. The reason why Dwight Howard is going to get a max contract this summer, because of the only analytic that most people look at, because it's very easy to see on the eyeball test, which is that Dwight Howard, even at this point in his career with all of the injuries and damage that he's taken, can jump very, very high, and he's a great big large person. Yep. It's the lack of analytics that's going to get Dwight Howard a large contract, not the presence of them. Listening to AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Just around the corner, we're going to jump into this Baylor thing because it's got layers to it, like some kind of twisted, disgusting onion. I don't even really want to talk about it, but I do feel a little bit inspired to talk about it because I watched the movie Spotlight last night, and it's a great movie. But it's also a great movie about the media using its ability to expose lies and expose problems in the system. So why not? I'll do the right thing. Fine, I'll do the right thing, even if it's no fun. Also, we'll talk about the Raptors and the Cavaliers and the Thunder and the Warriors. So listening to Clutch with Keon Rose.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds. We'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. You and I know that real men are prepared for anything. You know what I'm talking about because you're a Take Charge guy. Everyone's talking about Grimm's Tactical, featuring first responder gear, survival gear and equipment, Voodoo Tactical, Leapers. For personal protection, Grimm's Tactical features non-lethal personal protection gear, AR/AK parts, knives, canning and dehydrating equipment. If you hike and camp, Grimm's Tactical has got what you're looking for, bags and packs. And for your side piece, concealed carry holsters for men and women. Plus, Grimm's Tactical carries a wide variety of freeze-dried food. Wise Mountain House, Backpacker's Pantry, Grimm's Tactical, where law enforcement shops, Safari Lane, Blackhawk, 511, first responder gear at Grimm's Tactical. Grimm's Tactical, 8115 East Brainerd Road, in the shopping center next to the Walmart Marketplace. Look for the Mighty Mini U-Haul office. Grimm's Tactical is right next door. Grimm's Tactical, 8115 East Brainerd Road.
Just imagine not a cloud in the sky. It's the perfect day on the water. You could be enjoying boating with friends or wetting your line to catch a fish. Or maybe it's just you and that special someone on a sunset cruise. All of this without the hassle of owning a boat with your membership in the Carefree Boat Club. As you relax and spend time with the ones you care about, you have the peace of mind of knowing you're a member of the Carefree Boat Club. Weekends were made for relaxing and being hassle-free, just like the Carefree Boat Club. Let us take the worry out of boat ownership. No matter if you enjoy fishing, skiing, cruising the lake, or maybe even an overnight adventure, we have a boat for you at the Carefree Boat Club. Start making memories today. Call 423-619-7156 to join. Boating season is here, so do not wait. Call now, 423-619-7156. Carefree Boat Club is located at the Harbor Lights Marina, 9718 Hickson Pike.
Finding just the right place to live can be a daunting task. Stop your search. In Chattanooga, the place to live is Cross Creek Villas for under $1,000 and available for immediate move-in. You can enjoy this 2-bedroom split layout, over 1,000 square feet, 9-foot ceilings, an extra-large patio or balcony. And don't forget to ask about their preferred employer program. Cross Creek Villas is a gated community, offering a 24-hour fitness facility, a beautiful pool and hot tub, and Cross Creek Villas is pet-friendly. Stroll the pet park with your best friend and enjoy the free use of their business center and clubhouse. Plus, if you mention you heard this on the radio, your application fee is free. Cross Creek Villas, close to downtown off of Highway 58. Go to crosscreekchattanooga.com. That's crosscreekchattanooga.com or call 894-0446. That's 894-0446. Redefine the way you live at Cross Creek Villas. Go to crosscreekchattanooga.com or call 894-0446. Cross Creek Villas.
Fair to partly cloudy skies will continue through the nighttime. On the muggy side, lows into the mid-60s for Friday as well as the holiday weekend. Typical summer weather returns with partly cloudy, hot afternoons with only isolated showers and storms. Highs upper 80s to around 90. This forecast is brought to you by Riverbend, June 10th through the 18th, featuring discounted admission now at area Kangaroo Express and Circle K locations with discounted Riverbend tokens at your local Food City grocery stores. And I'm Soar Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Core. On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. A man was shot in the leg, and according to police, the female suspect holed herself up in her house, leading to a 6-hour standoff with the police. They were able to extricate the victim, who was taken to the hospital, but the suspect was stuck in her house, barricading herself in for 6 hours. Eventually, the standoff did end peacefully, and the 56-year-old Lafayette woman was taken into custody for the shooting of her 49-year-old male friend at 7:45 p.m. on Wednesday. A mother of 4 was gunned down on Elder Street. Her body was found by a walking pedestrian. She had been shot several times. The police say that it is gang-related. The police say she was set to testify against gang member Cortez Sims, who is charged for the College Hill Courts shooting. He's still behind bars. For this reason, the police believe that this shooting is gang-related. And the Friends of the Library is going to be setting up an honor-based library system at the Chattanooga airport so travelers can pick up books to read on their flights. Price per book will be $3 to $5 in that range. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on Hot News Talk Radio.
Hot News Talk 1240.
So the University of Baylor out in Waco, Texas, fired Art Briles, and school president Ken Starr. Both of them were let go in the midst of a PR nightmare of Baylor sexual assaults that seemed to be, over the past few years, adding up and adding up and adding up. And, you know, there's layers to this story. Like, there's the first layer of the culture of that school, which is the culture. Culture does matter, right? And what we know about the culture of that school is Baylor is a private university. And if you look at where things go down, it's private universities where records don't have to be made public, right? The Freedom of Information Act, that applies to public schools, right? So if this had happened, I think whoever wrote it on Deadspin did a great job of writing that, which was that if this story had happened at Texas or Texas A&M or University of Houston, those are public schools, any of this stuff happens, you immediately have to release that. Baylor doesn't have to. It's private, even though they use public money, which is a whole, rabbit hole you could go down unto itself. But they are a private school by classification, and therefore don't actually have to make any of the information public. And that obviously plays into this culture of secrecy, wherein there isn't anybody to keep you in check once you decide to start bottling stuff up. Add on to this, Baylor has a culture that is, I don't want to say anti-female or anti-woman, but they have had their struggles with Title IX, which is a law about the equality of women in schools, in universities specifically, that Baylor does accept public funding and therefore should follow Title IX, except Baylor has been fighting Title IX since the very existence of Title IX. Title IX came into existence back in 1972. Baylor, back in 1974, would not allow women to wear pants on campus. You had to wear dresses. You had to, because you were a woman, which does have this underlying culture of we're always just going to fight whatever is good for women. That's just basically the basis of what this school is made of, is if something is good for women, we're just going to fight it. And we're going to fight it not because we believe morally that we're right. We just don't like the power that the government is exerting on us. So forget you guys. We're just gonna do whatever we want. Okay, and it's interesting because people don't actually tend to lose Title IX funding, regardless of what it is that they do. You cannot easily lose this stuff. It gets threatened all the time, but as someone else said, it's like a nuclear option if it's serious. If when it gets to that point, you don't even want to use it. It's so serious. No one's actually had Title IX funding pulled from them, which is absurd when you think about it. Okay, and the other part of this is victims were, according to Baylor's own report, which they did release, by the way. They didn't have to. That's scary unto itself. They didn't have to, but I think that they saw the public relations nightmare and storm around the horizon and decided, you know what? We're going to release this stuff. We're going to fire Art Briles. We're going to fire Ken Starr because all of these guys are connected to us. And what people think of us right now is that we think rape is cool, and we don't. So I guess kudos to taking that stance on that finally. But when it comes to what it is that this school does, it makes life very difficult for those who have rape accusations. And that's always been a problem with any part of rape culture, is when women have issues that are brought up about them being violated, it's always difficult for them to report it. Now, this is not difficult in the typical sense that it's difficult to report it. Like, you know, you feel shame so you can't report stuff, or you have the actual abuser discouraging you from reporting stuff. In this case, the system for reporting was broken at Baylor. Here's a line from the report. Quote, they were conducted in the context of a broader culture and belief by many administrators that sexual violence, quote, doesn't happen here. Administrators engaged in conduct that could have been perceived as victim blaming, focusing on the complaint's choices and actions rather than robustly investigating the allegations, including the actions of the respondent. Other findings that were found, according to this article here in Deadspin, is members of the Baylor football staff repeatedly and actively refused to report sexual assault allegations to the proper administrators. And what investigations did happen were, as I told you before, led to victim blaming and complaints about the victim. In some instances, football staff members were met directly with accusers or parents of the accusers and still did not report the allegations. University administrators directly discouraged complaints from reporting or participating in the student conduct process. In one instance, those actions constituted retaliation against a complainant for reporting sexual assault. So actually, the school would retaliate against you for filing a sexual assault with the school. And then the school, once meeting with your parents, once meeting with your family, didn't actually move that on up the chain to the police. That's a problem. And again, where you get with most crimes, and especially even in crimes as heinous as this one, is that the cover-up is always worse. Like, you think it can't get worse, and then they cover it up. You know, I said I watched the movie Spotlight last night. That movie is fantastic. The movie is about the Boston Globe reporters that uncovered the Catholic Church scandal involving the priest and the molestation. And there were up to 90 priests in Boston that were involved in this. And the interesting thing to note here is that everybody was complicit in the cover-up. That nobody tried hard enough. And I was listening to Colin Cowherd today, and Colin was saying that he was scared, right? That this kind of stuff happens in Waco, Texas. Small towns scare him, not big cities. Big cities, there's lights, there's cameras. The reason why this happened isn't because it happened in Waco. Because again, remember, 90 priests were molesting young children in Boston. Boston. That's a big city. Okay? And when they released the list of where all of these things were happening, there were a lot of big cities on that list. San Antonio was on that list. Dallas was on that list. Los Angeles was on that list. Miami was on that list. When people don't step up for what's right, you don't try as hard as you should to squash a problem, then it doesn't matter if you're in New York City or Waco, Texas. We're going to have issues. And the weak will continue to be trampled when we look the other way. It's a huge deal. And in the case of Baylor and in the case of football, thank God we at least have things like public relations nightmares. Because if there was no PR backlash from this, Art Briles is still coaching. And Art Briles is a big problem because he's the head coach. They pay that man $4.2 million a year to represent something on that campus. And he didn't, because when kids were being raped on that campus by football players, he didn't do anything. And was, in all likelihood, complicit in the cover-up. You can't buy that he didn't know anything. $4.2 million doesn't make it possible for you to know anything. The president who was fired, Ken Starr, makes less than Art Briles. I don't buy it. You either knew and didn't do anything about it, or you didn't want to know. And both of those things are deplorable. You're listening to AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. That's me. Thank you for joining me today, making me just a small slice of your day. I'm going to try and lighten the mood here. I'm going to try. It's difficult because that is a heavy subject matter, but there is NBA basketball tonight. There was NBA basketball last night, and if there's anything that sports are good for, it's lightening the mood, like a little palate cleanser. Okay, bad things are happening on Earth all the time. It's okay to take a step back, breathe. Don't forget about the bad things that are happening, but you can take a step back. I want to talk about the Raptors and the Cavs because that was an awful game.
I'm not having it.
Yeah, I didn't finish watching that one. I told you LeBron was going to be special, and he wasn't special in the way that I wanted him to be special. I wanted him to take over the game. LeBron said that he didn't want to take over the game because that's not how they got here. They didn't get here by him taking over the game. Great point, LeBron. I'm not blaming you for that. I'm not saying LeBron should take over the game just to take over the game. I'm saying LeBron should take over the game because it would be at least personally entertaining for me. And that's a really great reason to take over games. It would be personally entertaining for me because when LeBron is sharing the ball and everybody's getting involved and the Raptors have a few bad calls go against them early and then they get into this 31-point hole and then Cleveland's heading into the fourth quarter with a 40-point lead. I want LeBron to just dominate. That he's the most interesting player on the floor at any given moment. If there's going to be a blowout that's insufferable that I have to watch, I want it to be LeBron James. I mean, look at Oklahoma City. They've got it. When there's a blowout that's insufferable to watch, it's Westbrook and Durant. Those are the two guys I want to see going off anyway. They're the best players to watch in this whole thing. It would have been personally entertaining for me. That's why I want this, as I wear my Wizards own the playoffs shirt, despite the fact that the Wizards are not in the playoffs. I got it from the year before. Leave me alone. Moving on to the next series, because that's all I can say about Toronto and Cleveland, and that Cleveland will be winning the next game that they play in Toronto. There's going to be a lot of sad Canadians. But congratulations, Canada, because you've reached new heights of playoffdom, right? Let's talk about the Thunder and Warriors. Because Draymond Green has guaranteed victory tonight. So there's that. That's step one. Step two is that Draymond Green has done something that I don't think a lot of people are giving him credit for. Draymond Green is taking a lot of the blame for being bad and the team being bad. Like Draymond Green is saying, you know what this team was missing against the Thunder? Me. People want to get mad at Draymond when he's talking trash, when he's blowing up, when he's being flamboyant. Nobody wants to give Draymond credit for taking the hit. He doesn't have to. Draymond Green has had a horrible stretch of games. He's minus 73 over the last two games. That's his plus minus. Steph's minus 39. Like, what do you think? Steph's minus 39, which is also horrible. We just haven't been talking about it because Draymond's been worse. Steph can take some of this blame too. But Draymond stepping up and taking some of that blame, let's give the guys some credit for doing that. If you're going to hate it when he talks trash and he's in your face and, you know, his wide, cavernous mouth is just open, the universe could fall in there, then you gotta give the guy credit for taking the hit and saying, yeah, I played bad. You talk about leadership ability, that's one. That's one. I'm interested in wondering what it is that the Warriors are going to do, though, to counteract what the Thunder are doing to them. Because, one, they're being physical with them. And not just like regular physical, because the refs will call that stuff in the regular season. They're being 90s physical with them. Let's be honest. It's in the postseason. I'm watching some of these screens that Steph is trying to run through, and he is running through a sea of hands. Also the name of a great football play, one of the greatest in NFL history, but he's running through a literal sea of hands. It's Ibaka. It's Westbrook. It's Durant. And every time he tries to go somewhere and go around some screen, someone's pulling on his jersey. And again, that's not an excuse for playing poorly, but there's got to be a counter to that, is my point. Golden State's got to find a way to spring Steph Curry and get him free and get the rest of these Warriors free, because right now, you can't win when just Klay Thompson plays well. You can't win when just Klay shows up. And the counter to that is it's got to be partially defensively. But partially, the Thunder are switching on you on offense because they're not afraid of your speed. Your small lineup is smaller than their small lineup, and their small lineup isn't that much slower than yours. They're right there with you, like a step behind. So you're Steph, you're the Warriors, you're Steve Kerr. What do? Because they're running out the lineup of death, and the Thunder are killing your lineup. It's an unfortunate name for where you are now, because the lineup of death seems to be killing you. You've got an offensive rating of like negative 123 in 4 games. This is a problem. And it's not just Draymond. I'm seeing Andre Iguodala do a lot of puzzling, weird things, but this team has got them out of sorts. The Warriors are no longer playing their game because what the Thunder have done to them defensively is just said, look, we're bigger and more athletic than you. We dare you to make the correct decision. To where even when the Warriors get the shots that they want, they're so tired and worn down from executing, and so mentally worn down from executing, they're not making open shots. And you've got to give the Thunder credit for making that possible. And then when the Warriors get what they want defensively, which is, among other things, wide open Andre Roberson threes, he's knocking them down. Like, you're the Warriors right now. What's the most frustrating about these 2 woodshed beatings that you've taken is you've gotten the things that you've wanted. You're doing on a game plan level, on a strategic level, exactly what it is that you set out to do. Yeah. Could you deal with 1 million less turnovers from Steph? You could. Could Draymond Green start playing big again? Yeah, he could. Steph Curry is 7 of his last 33 shots. Okay. He's not wilting under pressure. That's what the eye test would have you believe. That people do this all the time. We did it for years with LeBron, even though statistically we're looking at LeBron. He's amazing. He's playing with Mo Williams on a team and some kumquats. I mean, LeBron wasn't playing with anybody, and then we called him a choker, and we built up that narrative, and we ignored what the numbers were telling us, which is this guy's great. And now we're going to do it again with Steph, because he won the MVP, he got popular really fast, and it's trendy to do, and we're not going to give any credit to what it is that the Thunder are doing. The Thunder are what's wrong with the Warriors. And the Warriors need to have a counter, and they need to have a counter quickly with just the personnel that they've got. But it's their mismatches, and what the Thunder do is, and I don't think that they did it during the regular season, this much switching. This is just playoff level stuff now. The rules are different. The game changes in the postseason. It slows down. You grind more. But when the Thunder switch assignments against the Warriors, it's still a mismatch. Like Russell Westbrook against Steph, the way he's playing right now, that's a mismatch. They switch, and Durant is guarding Steph. That's a mismatch. And then if they switch again, Roberson is guarding Steph. Still a mismatch. They're not getting a break, Golden State is. And they're going to have to make something here. They're going to have to come out, and I'm going to go with The lineup of death, I know it's killing them. But I agree with the analysis of B-Ball Breakdowns coach Nick. Start the game with the lineup of death, because part of it is that the Thunder are opening up these games and getting a lead, and once they are ahead, they don't look back. They just step on you and keep moving. Like literally just tank you away. They absorb any damage that you give, and then they continue playing basketball. And I have not seen anything quite like this in a long, long time. The Warriors are a really good team, and they look like a horrible basketball team. And it's all because of what Billy Donovan and the Oklahoma City Thunder are doing defensively. You're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. And, you know, I got to tell you something. Radio advertising. We're the spot to do it, okay? If you want radio advertising, I highly recommend that you email us at am1240sales@gmail.com or email me personally at keonrose@gmail.com, where you can send me just your random sports opinions, I suppose, if you feel like, and any request to be represented on the air on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Radio is a medium that connects you to potential buyers and clients. Why wouldn't you want that? But of course you would. That's AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, am1240sales@gmail.com, and keonrose@gmail.com. Thank you for listening today, making me just a small slice of your day. You've been listening to Clutch with Keon Rose. We do this every day from 6 to 7. Remember, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And I'll see you in 24 hours.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Do you feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke,